Prices were going up, and that has been certainly the case right now. But the fact of the matter is, when prices go up, they have to adjust Social Security to the so-called cost of living adjustment in that. And it has been ratcheted up for next year. So recipients and those getting it will see an 8.7% surge in that benefit amount. Again, it takes effect next year. That's kind of keeping up with where prices are right now. When you talk to food, it still puts you underwater. But the significance of it right now, the biggest advance we've seen in the better part of 4 decades. Ronald Reagan was president at the time. The last time we saw a number that big. Brandon Arnold, the National Taxpayers, is with us right now. Brandon, how significant is this increase going to be? Now, of course, it barely keeps pace with inflation as we know it, but it is a big deal.
Oh, it's a huge deal. I mean, we're talking about, like you said, one of the largest increases we've seen in 4 decades. And we seem to be using that term a lot, whether it's describing inflation or benefit increases or what have you. But we're seeing extremely aggressive action from the Social Security Administration, which is absolutely warranted here. You have to increase these benefits. You can't leave Social Security recipients, senior citizens, people living on fixed incomes. You can't leave them behind in this inflation economy. So you have to make these adjustments. But there are costs for doing so, tens of billions of dollars in costs that could accelerate the depletion of the Social Security Trust Fund. And that's very, very concerning.
Well, a majority in both parties, that is the politicians themselves, agree that something has to be done. They can never do it. I think we'd have to go back to the Grace Commission during Ronald Reagan's presidency to at least come up with ideas to stave that kind of event off. But how do you see things going?
Yeah, I mean, no one has really aggressively tried to touch that third rail of Social Security since President George W. Bush. In 2005, we tried to reform the program. It obviously didn't go very well. Democrats are talking about tax increases. You know, there is an income cap on Social Security taxes. It's currently at about $150,000. It's going to increase to about $160,000. I think Democrats would like to push that up much higher. Tax increases, of course, are their typical answer to most public policy problems. I think a more fundamental restructuring of the benefit system is more appropriate here, whether that's increasing the retirement age or putting more aggressive means testing as part of the benefit program there. I think that makes a lot more sense than just simply raising taxes, especially in an economy that's heading potentially toward a recession.
You know, a lot of people are for that kind of stuff if there is a certain age. It's one thing if you're very young and they're going to raise the retirement age. That's one thing. I was young in the 80s when they pushed it back or started the process of pushing it back. Now, of course, where long-term to me is like lunch tomorrow, I feel differently about it. How do you think people are going to respond to adjustments on this, either pushing back the age, limiting the benefits, limiting, or narrowing that income point at which you have to pay taxes on it? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a reason why no politicians are willing to stick their neck out there.
Absolutely.
Because people get very, very angry. So it's an unpopular position to take, but it's a very important one to take. You know, we have somewhere between 10 to 13 years maybe left in the Social Security Trust Fund. So I think all the politicians just want to keep pushing that date back. There's a cost associated with doing so. The longer you wait to make the changes, the more expensive and drastic they're eventually going to have to be. So if you do stuff now, even if it's relatively small at the margins, that will push that solvency date much further back under the horizon. But politicians don't want to touch it. I think there is a chance that there may be an attempt to raise taxes, Social Security taxes, but beyond that, I don't think there's enough courage and temerity on Capitol Hill to get any kind of meaningful reform done.
Yeah, you have to be on the brink, which I think we are, as you pointed out, but we'll see. Brandon, great seeing you again, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Neil.